Hello Year 5. This is our reading lesson for today. We're going to begin by looking at inference, just as a starter. Remember, inference is about reading in between the lines. The answer is not necessarily in the text itself. You will have to use your own knowledge and use your own judgment to think of the answer. So I'll read the passage to you. It's called The Race. It was the final lap of the race, the 66th lap of hair-raising 100 miles per hour madness. John was all set for the victory. Around the final bend he came. Then bang! Everything stopped. John could see the flashes of red, green and blue flying past and onto the finish line. He placed his head in his hands and sighed. Okay, so that's the short passage, and these are the two questions I would like you to consider now. How is John feeling at the end of this short story? And why would he be feeling that way? So how is John feeling at the end of this story, and why would he be feeling that way? So just take a few minutes now, maybe 5 minutes or so, to jot down your answers to those two questions on your piece of paper or in your book. Thinking about using your inference skills. And then when you've done that, we can move on to the next comprehension activity. Okay. So this is our main activity. It's a comprehension about plastic pollution, which we have all looked at and studied in class with our ISA 2 CSA unit, so you all know lots about plastic pollution anyway. So this is a non-fiction article. So again, I will read it to you, and then there's some questions to follow. End plastic pollution. Our planet. Our planet is incredibly important to us, and as it is the only one we have, we must ensure we look after it and care for everything in it. There are many national and international initiatives aimed at raising awareness for the protection of our planet, including Earth Days, Environment Days, and Recycling Weeks. These projects all aim to tell people the importance of looking after the Earth and how we can do our bit to protect it. They work with local councils, schools, supermarkets, and other organisations to help increase people's understanding of environmental issues and to spread the word of what everyone can or should be doing to help address these issues. Over the past few years, people have begun to realise the impact that plastics have on the environment and how it is seriously damaging our Earth and the things living in it. These initiatives and organisations have been looking at plastic pollution and what can be done about it. Even the government is working with national agencies to help combat this global problem. What is plastic pollution? The biggest problem with unwanted plastic is the pollution and damage it causes to the environment. Because plastic is cheap and easy to make, humans buy and use a lot of it, which they then dispose of. But plastic is strong and durable, because it was made to last, so when it is thrown away it takes hundreds of years to decompose. It breaks into tiny pieces, which then get blown around by the wind and the rain, and lots of the plastic ends up in our streams, rivers, and the ocean. The amount of plastic on the planet is increasing exponentially, meaning it is threatening the environment through poisoning and injuring marine life and littering beaches and landscapes. The making of plastic, as well as the incineration of it when it is thrown away, releases toxic chemicals into the air, land, and water. These chemicals can make both humans and animals ill. Because plastic does not decompose quickly, if at all, it fills up landfills and spreads out into the environment. Did you know? In the UK, a new plastic bottle tax of up to 22 pence will aim to reduce the number of plastic bottles that people throw away. This money will be returned to people if they return their bottles to the shop they bought them from. What can you do to end plastic pollution? There are lots of things we can all do to help end plastic pollution. Most importantly, we need to remember the 3 R's in order: reduce, reuse, recycle. We should first try to reduce our use of plastics, then reuse where possible. The last resort is to recycle, as this still has a negative impact on the environment due to the initial manufacturing of the plastic. Reduce. Avoid single-use plastics such as straws and takeaway cups, instead choosing to use alternatives such as bamboo. Avoid buying plastic toys unless they are second-hand. You can't do this alone, so it is important to talk to your family, head teacher or school council about how your school and family can use less plastic. Reuse. If you have plastic items, ensure that you use them multiple times. For example, refill and reuse water bottles and lunch bags. Also, avoid using plastic bags for shopping, using strong, long-lasting fabric bags instead. When you no longer enjoy a toy, make sure you take it to a charity shop so that someone else can enjoy it. Recycle. Check for the recycling symbol before you buy plastic, and make sure that you always recycle plastic when you can, instead of throwing it away with the normal rubbish. Currently, less than half of all plastic bottles bought in the UK are recycled. However, the new plastic bottle return scheme should hopefully increase this amount. Now at the bottom we have something called a glossary, and these are the words in bold within the passage. So starting from the top, we have decompose, which was on the first page, which means to rot away. Durable, which means hard wearing, so it lasts a long time. Exponentially means more and more rapidly. So if something is growing exponentially, it's growing very, very quickly. Incineration is the destruction of something by burning. So by burning something. Journalists are people who write for newspapers or magazines or who broadcast news. Landfill is an area that's filled with waste. Marine is related to or found in the sea. Pollution is something harmful or poisonous within the environment. And single use means designed to be used only once. Now, if you're happy with that article, then you can now move on to the next page and have a go at the questions. Of course, you can always go back now and reread yourselves if you prefer to just read over it one more time before you have a go at the questions. And of course, if there are any other words that you're not sure of the meaning, then you can use a dictionary to look those words up and maybe jot them down onto a piece of paper. Okay, so if you're ready, we can move on to the next page and we'll begin questions. So the first couple of questions are more basic and literal, so you'll find these answers from just reading the text. So number 1, which of these are problems caused by plastic? And you need to tick 2. We have poisoning and injuring sea animals, taking hundreds of years to decompose, a new plastic bottle tax, or filling landfills and spreading into the environment. So you need to tick 2 of those that you consider are problems caused by plastic. Number 2, draw a line to match the activity with its name. So we have reduce, reuse and recycle on the right, and then 3 activities that you need to match those terms to. Ensure that you do not throw plastic items away, putting them in the correct bin so that they can be remade into something else. Avoid buying anything made of plastic. Choose alternatives instead, so choose something different instead. And utilize plastic, that just means use plastic items that you own more than once. Use plastic items that you own more than once. So match those boxes up. Number 3, Name 2 awareness initiatives that help promote environmental issues. Name 2 awareness initiatives that help promote environmental issues. Number 4, fill in the missing words from this sentence. It breaks into something, which then gets blown around by the wind and the rain, and lots of the plastic ends up in our something and the something. It breaks into something, which then get blown around by the wind and the rain, and lots of the plastic ends up in our something and the something. Number 5, find and copy a phrase from the text which shows that this is not a problem which you can solve on your own. Find and copy a phrase from the text which shows that this is not a problem which you can solve on your own. So somewhere in that passage it mentions that this is not a problem that you can solve by yourself, and you need to find the phrase that tells you that. Number 6, why is recycling the last of the 3 R's? Why do you think it's at the end? So we have reduce, and then reuse, and then finally the last R is recycling. Why do you think it's the last of the 3 R's? If you reread the passage, it actually tells you why it's at the end. Next question. Now these are slightly trickier, and they are not, the answers are not necessarily in the text, so you have to think about them carefully, use your own common sense as well as knowledge, and just have a go at answering these in as much detail as possible. Do you think that the new plastic bottle tax will help the problem of plastic pollution? Do you think that the new plastic bottle tax will help the problem of plastic pollution? And explain your answer. So do you think it will help or not? Now, new plastic bottle tax, a tax is basically an added amount of money that you'll have to pay in addition to obviously buying a new plastic bottle. Do you think that adding that little bit of extra money will help to tackle the problem of plastic pollution? Number 8, how do local councils, supermarkets and the government help to combat environmental issues? How do local councils, supermarkets and the government help to combat environmental issues? What do they do to help combat these problems? And then number 9, do you think the awareness days can help? Do you think the awareness days can help? Explain your answer. An awareness day, we've had several of them over the past few years at Nord Anglia. For example, the Mental Health Awareness Day last year. I don't know whether some of you can remember wearing yellow coming into school to raise the awareness of mental health issues and to help people understand what mental health is. So do you think having awareness days about pollution, about plastic pollution, will help or can help? Explain your answer. And they are all the questions for today. Now hopefully you have written detailed answers, remembering to take care with your presentation as well, with capital letters and full stops. And when you're ready, you can turn to the next page to go through the answers. Now, I won't go through all of the answers because they're just there for you, but what I will say is that if you have any problems, if you experience any difficulties or you don't understand something, please make a note of it and feel free to email your class teacher asking them to explain something or just to just to help you with something. And when you're finished, then you can relax for the rest of the session. Okay, so thank you very much, and like I said, just remember to email your class teacher if you want them to check through your answers, or if there's any problems with any of the work that we have done today. And then there'll be a new reading comprehension activity posted for the next day, for the rest of this week. Okay, thank you.